Well, pleasure to be with you, man. Thank you so much for coming. And this is fun because we have a really close friend in common, Janine, who kept me sane and in line for 3 years during COVID. I've known Janine. Well, I've known you since what 2016, Janine, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, it's always been a pleasure working with her, and now you guys are working together, and this is just really cool. Really, really cool, man. So thank you for being there, man. How's it been working with?
All
I,
right.
I call Janine the human buzzsaw.
She just saved my life in this business, right? Because it's a lot going on, and to
Yeah.
have someone coming in and organize things and kind of slows things down for you to focus on what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
She's the best, the best.
You know what struck me, and I always like. I wish more people, because when we moved out here, then everything was remote with Janine for the most part. But I always wish people got the rest of the people who worked with us got to see her in action, because she, what I always thought was special about her is, which is still, I'm sure it's still the same, if not more, is that she will force things to happen.
Yes.
And as you know,
Yes.
sometimes like as an entrepreneur, like anything where you're starting something new, it's like some things happen. Some things happen because you're strategic, or you have good relationships, or you were ready, and then some things just have to be forced into existence. And like very few people have that quality. I don't know what your experience has been, but
Exactly
I'm gonna
the
give her
same.
her flowers right now.
Exactly the same. I give them to her every day.
Yeah.
I don't think, how many times a day do I tell you how much I appreciate you?
At least 4 to 5.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
This lady, she goes above and beyond, and that's what you need in a nonprofit, mission-driven organization.
Yep.
I don't think once in the whole 2 years plus that she's been here has she said that's not my job.
Exact-
Everything is her job.
That's right.
And it's infectious because we have 52 employees.
Yep.
Everybody looks to her,
Yep.
and she does it and leads by example.
Dude.
I think she's coming for me on the low. I'm telling everybody offline, if anything happens to me, look to Janine.
That's a Trojan horse.
Yeah, man.
Take both ways.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thanks again. And I just, for the people who are new to hearing about you and everything you've done, I'll ask some dumb questions because Janine has told me a lot about you. But where are you? To start with, where are you from, by the way? Where originally?
Man, that's a loaded question. I was actually born in Wiesbaden, Germany.
Really?
My dad was a major in the Air Force, a Tuskegee Airman, and traveled the world. I have 7 brothers and sisters. We were born all over the place.
Wow.
And
Your dad was? You said your grandfather,
my
your
father,
father was
my
a Tuskegee,
father.
Tuskegee Airman. Wow.
Major Harold A. Hillery. Yep. He did a career in the Air Force, retired,
Yeah.
became the oldest rookie in New York Fire Department history.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
You said the oldest rookie,
Yep.
and then he worked there until he retired.
Yep. 2 pensions.
Wow. And then that's what brought you to New York.
No. When he retired from the Air Force,
Yeah.
we moved to New York,
Yeah.
where he's from.
Yeah.
He was from Harlem,
Gotcha.
and we lived in Queens,
Nice.
and came up, and that's the humble beginnings to a long, winding road, as you'll hear as we talk.
And just to understand, and when you talk about he's from Harlem, you grew up in Queens, you're in Harlem now. How do you identify? I think it's
Well,
important to ask if you're from
yeah.
New York, like from what I've gathered.
Well, I'm honest and open with this,
Yeah.
right?
Queens.
I am not from Harlem, nor do I live in Harlem.
Okay.
So from Queens, I made some money, and I moved up to the Riverdale section of the Bronx, which
Okay.
is a very exclusive enclave in the Bronx, up on the Hudson, and that's where I currently live now.
Gotcha.
So as we
But you
as-
serve Harlem.
Yes, as we talk, you'll
Yeah.
you'll
Okay.
see the connections.
Well, yeah. So tell me, how do you get from your dad in the Air Force to what you're doing now, if you don't mind? I know that's a big question, but we're in no rush. I would love to hear the story.
Well, listen, like I said, I have 7 brothers and sisters, and
Almost as much as me.
growing up in that environment, military guy, my dad was a hero, and he got the Purple Heart from President Eisenhower, shot down behind enemy lines. My dad is that dude, right?
Wow.
And when you come from a big family like that, you kind of get lost in the sauce, right?
Yeah.
And anybody with multiple children can empathize that the middle child is usually the problem child.
You're a middle child?
That's me. I'm number 5 of 8, right?
I'm 5 of 10.
So I was the first in my family to drop out of high school and not go to college, right? and to really stick it to dad, drugs and alcohol at 16.
Man,
But, you know.
I can't imagine. With a dad from the military, that
Yeah.
must have been tough on y'all.
But
on
dude,
your relationship.
what parents don't understand, sometimes you can really work on a kid. You know,
Yeah.
everybody in our proximity, be like your dad, be like your dad, be like your dad.
Yeah.
Those are big shoes to fill, dude. So it does one or two things. You be like your dad. In
Yeah.
this case, it's impossible. Or you rebel and you go the other way, right?
It's so interesting on that, and I'll just interrupt real quickly, and then please don't let me make you lose your thought. But it's a lot of people don't talk about when you have a dad that he's like this kind of bigger than life, masculine, overpowering figure or whatever, just the man of the house, but really like owning that position. It's hard for there to be two of those in the household, and there's nothing wrong with that because you need the role model. Don't get me wrong.
I think you might know a little something about that, bro. Just a little bit, right? Yeah.
But go ahead. So you said you leave, you drop out,
Mm-hmm.
get in the sauce a little bit, and then
Yeah, but then obviously now I'm the self-proclaimed black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
That one, right?
yeah.
But like I tell anybody who cares is that with that privileged background, because my dad put us all through private school. We summered in Sag Harbor, a little enclave in the Hamptons on the South Fork of Long Island, our whole life.
Yeah.
They did a good job of protecting us from the realities of the life. I had a lot of friends who lived a lot differently than we did. And I always just thought that they didn't have any money. I didn't understand poverty and the depths of it.
Yeah.
So with that kind of privileged background, because that is a privilege to go
Yeah.
to private school, summer in the Hamptons and all that stuff,
It's not average.
it's not average.
Yeah.
But it allows you the ability to mess up in life. Because whenever that light bulb goes off and you get your stuff together, you'll be just fine.
Hey.
I call it failing upwards in life. We see it around us every single day. I mean, I could mess around and become president of the United States right now with the background I just gave you, right?
Well, it's beautiful though, because like I mean, that's what as parents, that's what we hope to provide for our children. That's actually, in my opinion, the dream. I was talking to my wife about it, and she said that she was like, "There's so many people that they get when they have parents that are there, they have somewhere to go back to. Then you can make mistakes, you can try things, and then but you only fall so low."
That's right.
And so I think obviously it is a privilege, but I think that's a positive thing, and thank God you had it, right?
Yeah, it's a soft landing.
Yeah.
It's a soft landing, right?
parents, yeah.
But if you look at the contrast to that, the other side of that, for people who don't have that privilege,
Yeah.
it's not soft at all. It's
Not so
hard,
pretty.
right? So that's what kind of led me to this privilege, because once the dust settled and I started having some clarity, my dad, a civil servant, that was the family business. All my college-educated siblings, you know, they wanted to go to college and they wind up working for civil service, right? And that never really appealed to me. Out in the Hamptons, you know, you had every black family, you had that uncle and aunt who were just good friends of the family. And one of them was my Uncle Larry. He was a Cadillac salesman.
Yeah.
You know, every year he came out there with that new Cadillac and the suits, and he was smooth. That always appealed to me, that entrepreneur
What year would
kinda.
this have been, roughly?
Oh, man. I was born in 59, so I'm talking about the 60s.
There's real car salesmen back then. The real ones, they're not real anymore.
And that always appealed to me. So it was never, you know, the 20 years, the gold watch. So, and also my brother was 3 years older than me. He's out here. He lives in Escondido in L.A.
Nice.
He was in the car business. He would buy old cars, fix them, flip them. You know, entrepreneurs, that appealed to me more than the civil servant, 20 years, gold watch, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I started knocking around, man. Dropped out of high school, started hanging out in Manhattan,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, learned how to shine shoes, man. A boot black.
Yeah.
Right here I am, 17 years old, but you're getting $50 cash a day. I mean, I'm rich. I don't need school, man. So,
That's
but
real
then-
money.
But then I started learning how to fix shoes, and fast forward, I left and started my own shoe repair store on
Really?
the Upper East Side. Yeah, I was working at UPS at the same time and couldn't do both. Sold the store and bought my first house. Got married. I mean, it was a whole.
Can I ask you that
Yeah.
part right there? So what? Because I always am curious for people who have the bug, the entrepreneurial bug, where it comes from. Like for me, it started for two reasons. Like I wanted to buy a Sam Cooke CD. It was really, it had 2 CDs. It was like a special edition, and it was like $32. So I like started a lawn mowing business to get enough money just to buy that, and then I shut it down. and and then the other than that, just like a couple times I wasn't able to get a job, and I needed a job, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to do this myself. But like, I don't, it just kind of happens. You don't like wake up and be like, I want to be a business owner. At least it's for me, it didn't. For you, when you going from shining shoes, because it's like, yo, I can just make money and grind out each day and do my own thing, to let me start a business. What was that like? Was it someone was going out of business, you said I'll take it, or you just realized like, oh, I can do this, or
No, you you see people.
just that inflection point?
You see people, and I don't know if it was my upbringing, but I always see people as equals, regardless of your stature in life, right? You're the owner, boss. You're a line person coming in. What's the separation between the two? Experience, right? Experience and age mostly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this, and yeah, I'm shining shoes, but then I'm learning how to fix shoes, and then I'm running the front, and I'm doing the register. You're starting to crunch these numbers. You see how much the rent is. I'm like, wait a minute, I could do this. So,
Wait just a minute.
and I was a teenager at the time, but
Yeah.
that created my whole mindset. Whatever I did, I'd give myself 3 years from coming in. I want to know how to be able to have my own.
From whatever you're doing.
From
3
whatever
years,
I'm doing.
that's your
3
thing.
years is my line, right? So,
It's quicker than college.
yeah, exactly.
And then so from there you get into starting your own business, preparing shoes, and then from there what's next?
So I'm preparing. So it just so happens that this guy who owned this chain of shoe repair stores in Manhattan, his name was Dino. He was an early AIDS patient. He got AIDS, and he, you know how they blowing smoke up people's butt. You know, you're my guy. If anything happens to me, I'm gonna leave you this store, because he
Yeah.
had like 7 stores, and
Yeah.
I was with him a long time.
Yeah.
But then when he got diagnosed, here comes his long lost half brother from Greece, and he asked me to teach him everything I know. And what does that say? You see that writing on the wall.
Yeah.
So I took a job at UPS. I took a job.
Okey-dokey.
Took a job at UPS. My
Yeah.
route was the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Yeah.
On my route, there was a store for rent. Talking to the landlords, it was manageable. I talked to my family. They got together, led by my grandmother, who was she always believed in me. So it got me the money to get the store. There you go, my first store.
Really?
Yep. Started shoe repair, the only black business on the whole Upper East Side.
And just the Upper East Side, for people who don't know New York that well. Oh, I know what the Upper East Side is. Okay.
That's
Got it.
from
Yep.
the river to Fifth Avenue, from like 59th Street to 79th or 85th, something like that.
Got it. And how old were you at this point?
Ooh, man, not even 30. Yeah, about 30.
You got your own business.
Got my own business.
Dad and Dad cool again?
Well, yeah.
Cool enough. Yeah,
We're cool enough. And I mean, I'm doing both now. I'm driving my truck, and I'm
Yeah.
doing that.
That's tight.
And then it got so to the point that I couldn't do both, so I sold the shoe repair store
Nice.
and did the UPS thing. And then at the time, remember the high top fade?
Yep.
That was all the rage.
I remember
I
that.
bought a house in Queens. Me and my family moved to Queens,
Yeah.
and every Saturday I'm at the barber shop. And the barber shop was like church.
Yeah.
It was run by
Who's that?
oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on Mr. Hopkins. He's a part-time preacher.
Was he the patriarch of like the leader of the barbershop?
Yeah, it was his
I know.
shop. You go in there, they're playing gospel music. You're sitting there with your hands in your lap. You can't talk loud, but same people every week, because you got to get that thing done every week. And then
Yeah.
the designs started coming in. I started talking to my barber,
Yeah.
and he was telling me about the money. Again, I'm like, what? So I
And it's a
opened
cash
up.
business too.
I opened up a new barbershop, and it was the first new wave barbershop, because I didn't hire barbers. I was a hair cutters. So there's like some loopholes. If you don't use a straight razor, you don't
Yeah.
have to go through all
Licensing
of
and
the
all that.
licensing and all that stuff.
Nice.
So I did the opposite of what Hopkins was. You're going to love this. The name of the shop was Knockout of St. Albans.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not. The floor was like a boxing ring, and I had my boxing gloves crossed.
Kidding me?
No, and the surrounding the walls was jerseys of all the basketball players. I had a
Yeah.
big screen TV, blasting rap music and playing tapes of like NBA finals and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. Had hats of every team lined into place. It was called Knockout of St. Albans.
What?
Mark Jackson of the Knicks came in. Mike
Yeah.
Tyson used to come in there and get his hair cut. It was that kind of place. It was popping.
Where was it? Where was it in New York?
St. Albans, Queens.
Okay, got it.
Linden and Merrick.
Man, and you'll laugh, but my first like real business was a barbershop.
Yeah. Out here?
In Houston.
Okay.
And it's funny, like same thing. My barber was cutting my hair similar. He's cut my hair and he talked real slow. I think he was drinking lean at the time. That was big, and he was just like, "Yeah, man, you should just get your own barbershop." And I was like, "What is that?" And I kept listening to him. And a couple of weeks, I was like, "You know what? Maybe I could do this."
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, couldn't cut hair, and I still can't. But I was like, I did the math, and I was like, I can make money doing this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then my dad found out. I was managing him at the time, and he was like, "You can only have one client, and that's me," like the Godfather. So I had to get rid of it. But so your first barbershop was boxing branded, and my first business was barbershop.
And I never cut hair. I don't know how to cut
Same thing,
hair.
I never cut hair,
But
yeah.
I was renting the chairs
Yep.
to the barbers. I don't care what your hours were. You pay for your rent and for the week, and it
then
was
you
very
created it.
lucrative. And I sold it, and I bought my first house.
Got it.
Yeah,
But you made it like an experience.
yeah. It was an experience. It was the opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
but you can express yourself.
Yeah.
Because in Hopkins, you you couldn't say nothing, man. You say a bad word like darn, he's like, that's too close to damn, man. What you doing?
It really was so funny, like, at least for me, and it sounds like for you, like, growing up, barbershops were, like, a part of, like, at least as a man, like, ushering you into manhood a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, I just remember, like, all right, I'm going to get my hair cut. That guy, like, I don't want to be in trouble with that guy. And I listen to him talk and, like, learn about culture and everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I always remember, like, being nervous when I went to a new barbershop, which is so funny. And you changed that. So you sell it, buy a house, and then on to the next. What was next?
On to the next, still UPS.
Really? So you
yeah.
continue keeping that?
I'm still doing UPS.
That's
I
smart.
did UPS for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Then it's a very physical job, and you
Yeah.
start to get. I had knee surgery.
Yeah.
My back started acting up, and I was like, "Nah, man, this ain't it." So
And at this point, you know you can do other stuff, too.
I knew I could do other stuff. So that's when I got introduced to a friend of mine was working for this limousine company in New York City, and that company's biggest client was NBC. They did all the transportation for Saturday Night Live, Late Night with Conan O'Brien, to the Day Show, and all of this stuff, right?
Wow.
So I went in, and I was the last guy. It's like a hierarchy in limousine business.
Yeah.
A lot of bribery for the good jobs, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
I don't know
clients
the
'cause they
game.
tip
Yeah,
well, right?
I don't know the game. I'm the last guy on the couch. All
Yeah.
the airport transfers. That's the crap, right? So I had all that stuff, and
Grunt work.
the grunt work. But I had this thing about me. I don't know where it came from. I always looked at people. We're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, you put your pants on. You gotta eat. You gotta go to the bathroom. You might be famous, but you gotta do the same thing. So
Unfortunately,
yeah,
we're all the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that never really. I was never that guy,
Yeah.
right? Hey, what's up, man? Okay, let's
Yeah.
go, right? And that was it. So I started. One time, I forget who my my first celebrity, I think, was a guy named Robert Urich. He,
I've heard that. I don't
oh
know.
man, Dan Tanner, Spencer for
Yeah.
Hire,
Yep.
SWAT. At the time, he had the record of the most television series of any actor. He
Yeah.
was on so many different series. And he and I just hit it off, right? So he was busy at the time doing his, he was doing promos for this, advertising for that, sponsorship for that. And he would call me his New York deal breaker. So whoever's paying for him to come in, you know how the business works. The studios have their connections with whatever limo company. They get the volume discount. But he was like, no, I'm going to do it, but Tony has to come get me. So that's how it started. And as I'm doing that, I'm telling some of the other people that I started driving. Chris Rock at the time was, just
Chris
getting
Rock.
up. Yeah, Chris Rock was just coming on, got the Chris Rock show. And I was telling them, listen, you're the talent.
Yeah.
They don't tell you who it is. You ask them for me,
Who you want? Yeah.
right? So I went from the last guy on the couch to the first guy on the couch. At the end, this guy brought me a brand new Mercedes and dispatched me from my house.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. So this one.
Just because of your relationship.
Yeah. So in between now, I'm starting getting all these other clients,
Yeah.
like Brad Pitt. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts, dude.
That's what it is.
And
God.
so, if fate would have it, one day, Saturday Night Live was the best job to get.
Yeah.
Because the limo business is horrible.
Yeah.
You only get paid for when you're driving. The wait time in between, you don't get paid.
Interesting.
Right. So the
They
airport.
bill for that, right?
Yeah. No, the airport.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get 2 hours.
Got it.
Right. That's the shit. I mean, excuse my mouth, but that's the bottom. The
Yeah.
airport, the transfers, right? Saturday Night Live is what they call wait and return, or as directed. You
Got it.
stay with that person, right? So a typical host of Saturday Night Live can ring up about 70 or 80 hours a week.
And most of that you're just waiting on them.
You're waiting on them, but you're getting paid.
Got it.
So it's a grind, man. It's a grind. So one time, Saturday Night
70 to
Live.
80 hours a week?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Saturday Night Live comes, and the guest host is Cameron Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
The music is Smashing Pumpkins.
Wow.
Right? Cameron, man, she was in her prime, bro.
Yeah.
It was over 100+ hours, man. I was burnt. And now-
Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, so I'm about to go home, and I'm told that Samuel Jackson is the incoming
Whoa.
host.
Yeah.
And they wanted me because I'm black to drive Sam.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do it. I'm exhausted. I'm burnt. The owner called me an ungrateful nigga to my face.
No.
Yeah. So what would you do? What is that? So I was fired, right? Because you wouldn't say that to someone who's coming back to work, right? So he called me that, and so I'm home.
Whoa.
I'm home 2 days, and my cell phone rings, and Robert Urick's on the phone. I said, yo, man, I'm coming in New York to do this thing. He was doing this thing with Chef Emerald Lagasse,
Yeah.
some that, and he was doing a remake of the Love Boat where he was the captain. He said, I'm doing this double thing, and I need you to pick me up. I said, Bob, man, I ain't doing it no more.
Yeah.
I ain't with the company. He said, I know. I called them, and they told me you're no longer there, so I'm calling you.
Yeah.
And I said, but Bob, I don't got a car.
Happy to come. I'll ride my bike.
You know what he
whatever,
said?
yeah.
That's what he said. He said, get a bike or something. I'm coming into Teterboro. Here's the tail number. I'll see you Tuesday.
Figure it out.
So I'm like, oh, yeah. So I went to Avis and bought a rent-a-car. I bought a minivan.
Yeah.
A green minivan with green cloth seats. Now, Robert was a big dude. He was like 6'4",
Yeah.
good 260, 270. He was a big guy. Jet pulls in. I'm on the tarmac.
And you pull up in the minivan. I love this stuff.
Everybody gets out. He's looking around, and I get out and say, "Hey, bro."
Here I
He
am.
got over. Yo, this is different.
Yeah.
And so we rolled for like good 2 weeks.
Comfortable
Right?
though, yeah.
Just as I'm about to bring that car back, Chris Rock calls me. He needs the car. Same thing. I called the company. You're not there. He called me. I said, Chris, I don't have a car.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Just come get me.
Yeah.
Banned for a couple of days. But then the Robert money came in and all this stuff. And then I bought my first Suburban.
Nice.
And then I started parlaying. But during that time, you know how everybody's a little cliquish in Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? So people would see Chris, they see me. It was like I was his private driver. Same thing with Bob. I offered a personalized service. Other stars see that. They want that personalized experience. Like I always say, when they get off a plane, they don't want to see a sign.
Yeah.
They want to see a face, right? So that's how it started, man. And then it just went from, Tom Hanks, Nicole Kidman, Keanu Reeves,
Good
Matt
God.
Damon, Janet Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. It went bananas, man. Now, I missed the key part of this story
Okay.
was my bad choices. I was in drugs and alcohol for a considerable amount of time. I got clean and sober around 27 years old.
Okay.
So that plays a big part in my story. So, that's a full-time battle, battling those demons, especially in our society where everybody's throwing alcohol your way.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Especially on the scene and all that.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. So it's a full-blown fight daily, right?
Yeah.
It's like a full-time job. So the limo business is no different. You're in the proximity of all this fame, and
The parties
everybody's
and-
trying to,
yeah.
yeah. So everybody's trying to get close to them through you. I mean, it's a whole bunch of
How'd you battle? And yeah, how did that must have been a battle though to be
Man.
in that world.
wife and kids, man.
Yeah, that'll straighten
Wife
you
and kids. You know, especially when you've been there,
Yeah.
you know what you're risking. And then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Right?
Yeah.
So you never get an affirmative action that it's worth. You
Yeah.
never get an affirmative answer that it's worth it. So you just keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
So with all that, I mean, I started this little limo company, and I named it TZR Transportation.
TZR.
Those are my children, Tony, Zachary, and Rachel. And I'm the transportation, so TZR Transportation. And it went from this little hiccup to this massive company making tons of money, man.
How long did you run it for?
Woo.
What years?
I'm horrible with dates.
But just roughly.
Um,
what year to what year roughly?
Let me see.
just feel like-
99, right? 99.
That was when you shut it down.
No, I opened it in 99.
And then up until
up until 2010,
yeah,
2011.
I feel like there's definitely a chance we rode in your cars.
Yeah, probably.
Like
No,
the
not 2010. I'm sorry. That's when I started my next phase, but I was still doing both.
Yeah.
But I'd say 2013, 2014 is when I finally just said, that's
Gotta
it.
be a chance because we would go to. I managed my dad from really like year 2000, and then became his like exclusive business manager and travel companion and everything from like 2001 to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not be surprised.
I'm
if we rode
sure.
in your cars, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure, because it went from that, and then I hired all these drivers and had all these cars, and
Yeah.
I would assign a driver to a client.
Would not be surprised.
No,
if
I
you
wouldn't
did
be surprised either. I know our paths must have crossed. But yeah, so that was,
that. You grew that business for about 10 years plus minus.
yeah,
Got it.
and made a lot of money. And I always say, you know, all my life I always thought that was the ultimate. That was the goal, to get to that position where the money's flowing. But I was miserable.
Let me ask you a quick question because I want to pick up there. I gotta ask the guy who called you the ungrateful N-word.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get a chance to just walk past him, speak to him, or see him ever again?
No, I tried to take him to court.
Oh, good.
I went in, but everybody was afraid. People who were witnessing, they went on his side. You know.
Did he show his face though?
Yeah.
See that's just to make you show your face in court.
Yeah,
would be a win for me.
He showed up, but I saw him at events. I seen him at the
Really?
I mean, it's a small world, New York
Sure, it
City.
felt good.
All the red carpet events and all that stuff. I'd see him over there, and I'm like, yeah, boy, yeah,
We're
yeah,
ungrateful.
yeah.
It is just funny because I know, like, knowing, just listening to you for a moment and knowing that you started two businesses while working UPS, delivering packages, for you to say, like, I'm a little too tired to drive Samuel L., that mean you were really tired.
I was bent. Yeah, you can't. I mean, how many hours in a week, right? You
Yeah.
can't do it, right? And then you have children too.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a interesting time, but so the limo company was just it just kept growing and
Yeah.
growing, and you keep going and going. You can't say no in that business.
Yeah, nah.
You know, you get a call 2:00 in the morning. Oh, my assistant forgot to call. We're about to land in Teterboro in an hour. Can you make it?
You got to say yes.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm just sitting here waiting for you, right? Like a fireman, you jump up, jump in the clothes, get in the car, and boom, you're there, right?
Yeah.
So
So you said you were miserable.
I was miserable because you miss everything that's important. Your kids are growing up without you. You miss the birthdays, you miss the graduations. Thanksgiving and Christmas in particular is prime time in that business.
Yeah.
When you look at TMZ and you see Nicole Kidman walking down Madison Avenue, she ain't take the subway,
You got to be there.
right? Yeah, so you're there.
Yeah.
So there's a plate at the table at your house, but you're not there because you're doing that. And listen, it afforded me a great life.
Mm-hmm.
Nice house, all the trappings, nice vacations and all of that, but that doesn't take the place of your family.
Time with your family.
Right.
So talk to me about that transition.
Well, the transition was I'm in the business and it's going great.
Yeah.
And At the time, I didn't even realize what was going on, how I was feeling. You keep plowing ahead. You keep going through, right? More, 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 more.
People depending on you.
But then around 2010, the financial crisis finally caught up with me because the crisis of '08, the ripple effects.
Everybody started cutting back on everything, right?
No, not that. That's a recession-proof industry.
Interesting.
Entertainment, no, man. Even COVID didn't stop entertainment. But what it did do, the banks started cutting back on credit worthiness. They cut
right.
my line of credit because now they no risk is anything, right?
Yep.
Although this business is very lucrative, as you know, I could wait 3-4 months to get paid for a invoice of 40, 50 grand. You have to float this for all your, you got to make the car payments, you have to make the insurance payments, the gas bills, and your salaries of all these people working for you now, right?
Yep.
So now,
Net 90, and then they don't send it, then you got to track them down.
Yep. But the best one yet is like you have this big star coming in for a international press junket. You send the invoice. Now, this is snail mail. This is before emails and all this stuff. It really became
Fax,
prevalent,
maybe.
right? Yeah, so they send it back to you, red line. This is built here. This is built there. So you have to deconstruct the invoice, reconstruct it, send it to the pro. It's a long slog. So you need the line of credit.
Yeah.
Once they cut my line of credit, that's like almost the death knell, right?
Yeah, that's the whole business.
So I started losing clients
Yeah.
because now I can't get the brand new car. And this is very superficial business, although they make you feel like you're an indispensable part of the team. Hey, Tone, my family's coming in. I don't want no one else with my wife and my wife and kids or my mother. It's got to be you, right? You don't have that new car no more. Started losing clients, and now I'm sitting home getting depressed. And depression, to anyone trying to stay sober, is not good, right? So I lose myself in video games and the newspapers. So my wife would get up in the morning to go to work. I'm in my pajamas playing video games. She comes home at the end of the day. I'm still in my pajamas playing video games, right? So one day she said, dude, man, this ain't working. You got to do something, man. You're spiraling. So the New York Daily News at the time was doing an expose on those other schools. We all read those stories, right? Now, remember, I live in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, New York, right? And they have some of the best schools in New York State in Riverdale. People actually move to Riverdale when they're pregnant to guarantee their kids a seat in the local school when they come of school age. My kids all went to private school. That's my experience with schools, right? So I'm reading these stories. Harlem is 20 minutes from my house. So I'm reading these stories about Harlem and the South Bronx and Brooklyn. So now for selfish reasons, Harlem is closer by mass transit. You don't have to drive. I can get there in a few minutes, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is ridiculous. This has got to be made up. It's like a script for all these bad movies that we've seen with schools, right?
Can't be real.
Right, it can't be real. So one day fighting depression.
Are you effing kidding me?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm fighting. I get on. My wife goes to work. I got dressed and went downtown.
Yeah.
And
See for yourself.
I'm going to Harlem. I got up on 135th and Lenox, right in the middle of Harlem. I came up the subway steps and said, all right, do I make a right or a left? I chose left. In the middle of the block, there was a schoolyard. The kids are playing right behind the school. I'm like, Eureka, this is it. So I walk around the corner, knock on the door. Security comes to the door. I said, yes, sir, how can I help you? I said, well, I'd like to see the principal. She came out and said, yes, sir, how can I help you? I said, well, I'm here to help. And she said, help with what?
I'm sitting here listening like I missed something, but
Nope.
no, I didn't.
You didn't miss nothing. So this is the part where I am embarrassed to admit my arrogance and hypocrisy. But I said, I'm here to teach parents the importance of education to break the cycle of poverty. That's the first thing that popped into my head. Me,
Straight
the high
ahead.
school dropout,
Yeah.
recovering addict alcoholic. Principal looked at me and said, really? She called the parent coordinator. He came down and he and I had a cup of coffee. He slapped me on the back and says, go get him, Tiger. Dude, no fingerprints, no application. This is before Sandy Hook, so it was a different world.
Of course.
But now I had this thing.
You ever see the Michael Jackson meme, like GIF on your phone where he's like eating popcorn, waiting to see what happens
Yeah.
next? Like, that's what I'm thinking. But I'm also thinking they're probably like, this is interesting.
So
And but you walk down there just out of curiosity, but also with like
a
you
little
already
mission.
knew.
Yeah,
a little
What
mission.
I'm doing now, I'll be honest with you, it was selfish reasons. The location,
Yeah.
easy for me.
Easy to get there.
Going to work with these parents is a time filler as I figure out my next move
Yeah.
while I sort things out. I got to keep busy and get
Yeah.
away from the idle time.
Yeah, but you're doing something that needs to be done. So go ahead.
I didn't even realize it needed to be done. So,
You were
okay.
just like, I'm going to go down and fix this
Yeah.
real quick.
So I walk into this school. There's 400 kids in this school. It's an elementary school,
Yeah.
pre-K to 5th,
Yeah.
ages 5 to 11.
Okay.
And this school, there's 400 kids who all qualify for free breakfast, lunch, and supper if they're in after school because of the socioeconomic, right? I'm like, that's strange, right? So the school has no art, music, or gym classes.
No gym?
Bro, wait. So I'm like, yo.
But they're bad kids. I'm just saying, like, how you
I'm like, what is this place, right? So
you expect kids to be good if they can't move?
So now I come every morning. My wife goes to work. I go to work. I go to Harlem. I'm at these doors where the kids come in.
And your wife's just happy you're not playing video games
Yes,
at this point.
I'm doing something,
Yeah.
right? So every morning I greet every kid like some deranged cheerleader, like, hey guys, welcome back to school. But more importantly, I catch the parents on the way out, right?
Yeah.
And in about 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, this young parent looked me in the eye and asked me, yo, why you keep stressing this education, man? I ain't got one and I'm doing great. That was the statement. Great. The definition of great,
The child said that or a parent?
the parent,
Yeah. Okay, good.
right? So the definition of great, project department, welfare, Section 8, food stamps. That's great.
I'm surviving. That's really what. But
Right.
that was great though, to him.
So how
For
do you
good reason.
But how
that
do you
was-
respond to another human being? Because we hear that term generational poverty constantly.
Yeah.
But I can almost guarantee the average listener has never come face to face to it in a human form like that. What do you say as a response to that statement? No, you're not, or you could do better. What do you say?
Nothing. There's nothing good to say because
Exactly.
even if you say, I used to think that, but that's still
Right.
that's disrespectful and insensitive, especially if you understand the difference in the privilege you grew up with
Right.
versus what actual real life is for the mass millions of people in America. Yeah,
Yep.
there's nothing to say.
There's nothing to say. So I did like you would do. I quit. I went home.
You said you got a point.
I went home. I'm sitting at the dinner table with my wife, and we're talking, and I'm telling her about this experience, right?
Yeah.
And as I said that part about the statement made, my decision to leave, as I'm talking about that, I said, dang, this parent talked to me like that, like she knew me my whole life
Yeah.
in 3 weeks. But in those same 3 weeks, you'd have thought I knew all 400 kids since they were born. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen in your life. I say it all the time. When I come home to my 3 kids,
Yeah.
I'm a dick. I'm
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah. No, here he comes.
right? I go to Harlem in that school. Yo, every day is a parade, dude. Mr. Tony. I'm bigger than the president of the United States in those
Yeah.
schools, man. In 3 weeks, I've given them nothing. I promise nothing. I just show up.
You just show up for him and be consistent. Yeah.
Dude, it's the most amazing thing in my life. Someone who's always trying to feel validation and acceptance. I found it in these little kids, man. Right? So now I go back and man,
There's a stark contrast to.
it's a yeah.
And I know you loved your clients too. Don't get me wrong, but it's a stark contrast to
Oh,
seeing like
it's
what
total.
it was appreciated there and what's appreciated here.
Right.
So you say you go back and
I go back, and that type of affection, I mean, we are parents. We all teach our kids about stranger danger and all
Yeah.
of this. I've never experienced that type of emotion or interaction with people without something coming back to them,
Yep.
right? So I started asking questions about that. Like, what is that? And it turns out 42% of those children are homeless.
Good. I like to cuss. I'm not gonna cuss.
42% in the richest city in the world. And I'm like, nah, man.
Of
Not
the kids at that school?
Yeah, at those kids. So I said, not this kid. Yeah, this one, that one, that one, that one. Turns out, in that radius of that school, there are 14 homeless shelters in a 4-block radius of that school. 9 of them are domestic violence shelters where the children live.
My God.
It gets worse. So now you're there. You are Mr. Tony, and these kids, they adore you. And you're with them every day, right? Monday through Friday. And someone introduced me to this medical report called The Social Determinants of Health that tells you in no uncertain terms that those children are expected to live 10 to 12 years less than your children solely because of where they live and all of the elements that create that outcome.
Lifestyle, everything.
Right. So now,
Stress.
how do you go back to your beautiful doorman building and unpack that? How do you just shrug your shoulders and like, oh, well.
That's gotta be weird.
Right.
Feel weird.
So I kind of left this part out. There's this little girl in the school who was the littlest child you've ever seen in a big setting of a school. Her name is Nevaeh, heaven spelled backwards. The skinny, short, big glasses.
Got it.
Always on my hip, man. Always on my hip. So when I talk like this,
Yeah.
it's like data, statistics. When I talk like this, I see her face flashing in my head. Her and Cotty and Nan and all these other kids. So it's not a story anymore. It's them. It's these children's lives. They have names. They have dreams and aspirations, just like our kids. Dude, you might be homeless, but they were the most content and happy things I've ever seen in my life. You want to shake them, like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
But in hindsight, what's the matter with me?
Because you had just come off.
Right.
Playing video games.
Yeah.
Impressed.
And that was the contrast, man. And now you're like, oh, man.
man.
So I went back, tail between my legs, and told the principal that, I kind of overreacted. The kids dig me.
Yeah.
I dig the kids. Let me work in the lunchroom because that's where they all come for breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
So I get them all. And the principal warned me that there are 8 to 14 fights a week in the lunchroom. And this is elementary. These are kids, babies. So what she's saying without saying it is that these children are predisposed to violence
8 to 14 fights per month.
per week.
Golly. So that's 1 to 2 a day.
Yeah. So she's telling me that these kids are predisposed to violence. And, you're like, okay. So I went into the lunchroom where it wasn't violent, but it was chaotic. There's no programs.
Yeah.
There's nothing for the kids to do. There's no teachers. The teachers go to lunch themselves.
Yeah.
You have 3 underpaid school aides playing Candy Crush and 140 to 150 kids doing what kids would do with no supervision.
And they're just there to stop a fight if it
Right.
breaks out.
So if you push me and I push you back, that's classified as a fight.
So let's pick up. So you say I thought I knew, but I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're into the working in the cafeteria.
I go into the lunchroom every
1.9 fights a day.
Yep.
Okay.
So I set it up. I help set up, and I'm observing all of this stuff, and I see all the kids. That was me as a kid, with no structure and no one around. You're gonna do it. Food fights, pulling the girl's hair, running around,
Yeah.
they chasing. That's what it looked
Being
like.
kids, yeah.
So now I'm going in there after a couple of days of that. I said, I am Mr. Tony. They dig me, and I dig them. So one day I just got a garbage can in the middle of the lunchroom, banged it, and got their attention, and said, hey, guys, let's start recycling. And they said, what's that? So I explained to them.
Yeah.
Immediately, 22 kids joined me to dig through the garbage to separate the trash.
At lunchtime.
At lunchtime, breakfast and lunch. And by the end of that week, every kid in the period wanted to be on the green team. So I had to extend it. So we did 6 bins, bottles, cans, juice packets, foil wrappers, milk cartons, and compost, everything separate. And I assigned table captains. So when the table was finished, the captain raises their hand. They get up in an orderly fashion, empty the trays, goes back and sits down. And it was a whole 180 from I came in.
Yeah.
And within a week, the principal came in and asked me, like, what are you doing? I said, nothing. We're digging in the garbage. We went from 8 to 14 incidents a week to 0 in a week, right?
So we're not fighting. That's what we're
not
doing.
fighting. We're not. We have structure,
Yeah.
something to do. And then as a byproduct of that, the amount of garbage bags leaving the lunchroom reduced by about 80%. Because especially the styrofoam trays, you randomly throw them in, a bag fills up like that.
Yeah.
We're emptying them, stacking them. You can put 450 styrofoam trays in one garbage bag
If you stack them.
if you stack them.
Got it.
So I'm doing that. But then, again, here comes my hypocrisy and my arrogance. The limousine business is the most unhealthy profession in the world.
Just lifestyle?
Yes, you're always sitting. You're always waiting.
Oh, yeah.
You can never leave the vehicle because here's the rule of thumb in that business. The moment you leave the car to go to the bathroom or get something to eat, the client comes out.
And they're like, where are you? I
Yes,
can't wait one
yes,
more minute.
yes, yes.
We're going to die if we wait 5 minutes. Yeah.
So I'm sitting in that lunchroom, 52 pounds heavier than I am here talking to you right now,
Wow.
on 4 different medications. Right?
Coffee and sugar, I bet.
Oh,
Got you
man.
there. Coffee and donuts.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Or whatever you can get your hands on.
I'm watching these children's diet now. in
Blood
this
pressure,
lunchroom.
sugar, and all that stuff.
Blood pressure, pre-diabetic,
Yeah.
heart disease, and high cholesterol.
Okay.
And in my family, that's the
cocktail.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So now I'm in the lunchroom, and you watch the diet of these kids, right? The school food is unedible. You wouldn't eat it, right? It's like a slop, right?
Yeah.
Parents do the best they can with what they have, and they usually send the kids to school with a snack.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's Doritos and Pepsi. That turns into breakfast for these kids. They don't want to eat what's being given, so they'll eat that. Now the kids are all ramped up, and now it's starting to all make sense to you, right? Because there's always a reason why, right? We always
People don't want to just fight. And
no.
be rambunctious
We always
just
look
to
at
do it.
things, right? They'll say like, "What's wrong with that kid?" Instead of what happened to that kid, right?
Yeah.
So now you watch it in slow motion every day. You see this stuff, right? So the diet is going on, and I'm Mr. Tony because now after everything is done, they would just sit around me. I do table hopping, and we start these little conversations. And the conversation of food came up. And it turns out that kids in those schools can't even identify a simple vegetable. They can tell you a tomato and a carrot, broccoli only if it's cut off of the stalk. A natural broccoli growing off the
Yeah.
stalk, they get stumped.
Got it.
They said that kind of looks like broccoli, but no, that's not right.
Probably from watching cartoons.
Right.
Not everybody, but I remember like Bugs Bunny, certain things. I
Mhm.
remember, yeah.
That's before their time. They
That's
don't
right.
get those
All right,
cartoons.
never mind.
So
Do continue.
they and
Dated myself.
one day it was raining. We couldn't go out for recess, so we were just stuck in the lunchroom. And the conversation of food came up, and it was a whole big debate. And I said, you guys don't know nothing about food. And then Lil Nevaeh said, I know all about food. Tomatoes grow in Pathmark. That's a supermarket chain in New York. Because she saw them in the produce section on the vine with the mist
Yeah.
and the sound of thunder. I started laughing. She started crying and ran and told her teacher that I was making fun of her.
Oh no.
Right? So that's when it kind
She
of
was
clicked.
sincere.
Mm-hmm. So remember that statistic I told you about the 14 shelters in a 4-block radius? Shrink that radius 1 block. A 3-block radius, there are 55 fast food restaurants, 29 pharmacies, and not one affordable food option.
Are you
Did you hear that?
effing kidding? Freaking
No.
kidding me?
No.
Are you kidding?
And bro, this is not unique to Harlem.
55 fast food restaurants, 29 pharmacies.
and not one affordable food option.
Good Lord.
And then here I come talking about just eat healthy.
broccoli.
Or bad schools, just move to a better neighborhood. But the worst one yet, if I could do it, anyone could do it. Everything is easy from the comfort of your privilege bubble.
Yeah.
Everything. We
Yeah.
simplify it to that level, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I did. So, as fate would have it, right across the street from that school was an abandoned community garden. It was commissioned a garden in the 70s, and it was all on the Parks Department. And in the decade since the 70s, every time there's a fiscal crisis, parks is the most expendable.
Yeah.
So they cut. So there's like, oh man, hundreds and hundreds of community gardens in the 5 boroughs, 18 people overseeing them. So with the lack of oversight, they're taken over.
Got it.
So the kids called it haunted because you couldn't see in the gates. The gates were overrun with vines and weeds. It was like a wall. So all the kids saw.
Like picture like an old cemetery look
Yeah.
that's grown in, ingrown.
Yes,
Got it.
yes. So all the kids saw were cats, rats,
Yeah.
scary old people coming in and out because it was abandoned technically, but there was a lot of illicit things going
Hanging,
on,
yeah, people
and they
hanging.
can see that from across the street. So the kids didn't even walk on that side of the street. So now, breakfast is that's my time. That's my period. Breakfast and lunch. In between, the kids go to class. And I'm just wandering the halls, peeking at my babies, making sure everything's good. But I started being curious, and I started inquiring about the garden. And I found out that it was indeed abandoned. Because in New York, you have to reapply every 3 years for the license of a garden.
Yeah.
That was in default for 12 years.
Wow.
So they told me how to set up a garden committee. I did. Filed the paperwork. A few months later, they came and gave me the license.
So now it's you got it.
Yeah, I got it. So now, I'm not only an obnoxious hypocrite, I'm very naive. I walk over here with the license agreement, walk in there, hey guys.
With a weed whacker and a license agreement.
They ran me out of there physically.
They said, we'll
Physically ran
we'll
me
see
out.
about that, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
I had to call the parks department. They in turn called the police. It was a whole thing.
Now you look like you're calling the police on people and all that.
Yeah.
But
Now I got this.
yeah.
So when the kids would leave breakfast to go to class, I started going over there and pulling trash out, right? The kids would watch me from the windows, and at dismissals, they started coming over and help me.
Yeah.
And at the end of like 6 weeks, it was me and like 50 little kids had pulled everything out. And as I'm surveying my conquered little Nevaeh pulls on my pants leg and says, "Why don't we plant something?" Dude, I never planted anything in my life, right? But I defy anyone to look down into those eyes and say that.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, man, those kids look at me, they didn't see Mr. Tony. They saw everything. The answer to every question and every problem was right there. So I pulled my phone out, easy things to grow, herbs.
Yeah.
I went to Home Depot and bought 400 seedlings off the clearance rack, all edible,
Yeah.
and convinced the principal that every kid come out and plant as a class. So it was pre-K over there, going to 5th grade.
Yeah.
And we all have that crazy person in our life who makes stuff up. That was me. I mean, I told these kids I invented dancing, and they went home and told their parents, you know, Mr. Tony invented dancing.
Yeah, he also invented dancing.
Yeah. So I had this thing where every kid takes the seedling, and you hold it to the sun, and you name it, and you plant it, right? And that should have been the end, but that was just the beginning. Every day after school, they came in to see their plant. And
Yeah.
it was the same size. The older kids would measure it and tell me it's broken, it's not growing. Weekends, they dragged the parents down there to show them their plant. Now, this is the same kid who wouldn't touch anything green in the school.
You just have to put it in front of him.
So this was in April. Late
So
May.
now they want to eat it.
Right.
obviously. Yeah.
Late May, early June, they started to really leaf, and they started nibbling on it, saying how delicious it was. And the kids next to them saying, no, mine is. And they started sharing it. And that was the beginning of Harlem Grown. Wow. That first year, we grew 38 pounds. And we'd send some of it home with the kids. And I'd ask them, how'd you like that chard? They say, I don't know. My mother threw it away. We're back there. Mom doesn't know what it is or how to prepare it.
What to do with it.
So that was the humble beginnings, man, and it was. It seems like a long time ago, but it really wasn't.
Can I ask you something, man? So I'm listening. I'm like, it's interesting. So you the little things out here. I grew up working in a youth center in 1983. My dad opened it the year I was born. So I went from like just being dragged there to like sweeping, cleaning. It was just basically a big gym, and you pick up on things. And I actually think everything I learned. I don't really know the gym business, but I understand like, I think I understand like developing a community within a gym, right? Whatever that means, if that's a thing. And I brought that, and then I figured out the gym business, and I'm not that great at it. But looking back, I'm like, everything that I thought I was that I brought unique to the gym business, right? It was really just what I learned from hanging out at the youth center, right? So I didn't really do anything unique. I was just being myself in a different environment. But your instincts on what you did in the cafeteria, right? Let's just have something to do, right? And meaningful work, but it was fun, and there was a reason behind it, and it actually was productive, stopped the fights. Then going across the street, and you said you'd have them name it, look up and name it, and then plant it. And to me, if it's me, I don't care how nasty a vegetable, it could be the one thing I hate to eat. If I take my time and plant it, water it, grow it, I want to taste it.
That's right.
And if it doesn't taste good, I still want to eat it because it's mine. So I want to cook it.
Yep.
And then if it doesn't come out right, I'm like, oh, what about a little salt? What about a little oil or vinegar or whatever I know how to put on it, or ketchup? But the point is, I'm not thinking about McDonald's at that moment
That's
for
right.
a moment, or whatever I'm doing, or so on and so forth. Instinct, or had you been exposed to someone that taught you, like, here's how to capture kids' imaginations? Or was it just instinct from all the stuff you had done in the past?
I think it was more instinctual because I was always.
Because that's not easy for a lot of people to be like, how am I going to get kids to eat food
Right.
and plant vegetables in Harlem, right?
Right. Even though I was always working, I was always that dad on the block. All the kids on the block were at my house.
That's right, you had kids, yeah.
Mine was the fun house, everybody, you know.
Yeah.
So listen, man, it ain't rocket science, bro. You're just being a parent, man. You're giving structure. You're putting boundaries in place.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. And I always like to say that, you know, I'm getting a redo. I'm getting a redo with other people's kids, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I kind of looked at it. So that was
A redo of your childhood?
no, being a parent,
got
raising my kids.
Got it.
I
Get
was-
another, yeah.
I get another
better
crack
and better and better.
at other people's kids,
Yeah,
right?
I get that.
And as this lovely young lady could tell you, it's just that these kids, you would have a hard time distinguishing my biological kids from these Harlem-grown kids after 14 years. It'd be a hard, if you didn't know,
They're all in the back of a van, you wouldn't know who's
just from the interaction and how we engage and the communication, you couldn't tell.
So tell me about so now that was kind of the birth of what you're doing, the organization today. So tell me what happens between now and where you guys are now.
Well, yeah, that first year, like I said, it's before we even planted anything, the kids were just so happy in that space.
Yeah.
I remember we had no structure. It was just a lot. There was no soil. It was dirt. And we used to lay in the dirt, look at cloud formations, and tell you George, 4 hours. 4 hours. And at the end of the day, a kid will tell you today was the best day of my life ever.
Wow.
Right? Do that with my biological kids. 4 seconds. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm bored, when are we leaving? And it was
Dad.
this contrast, dude. And you can't escape it. You might try to,
Yeah.
but I'm like, man. And then these kids they just cling to you,
Yeah.
man. And so that first year, like I said, we grew 38 pounds. I gave it to the kids. There's 400 kids. 38 pounds ain't nothing because now they want this food.
They're eating it, sharing it.
They liking it.
Yeah.
So there was an empty lot next door that I called the city every day for about a year, and they finally asked me to stop calling, that I can't have it, but you can use it, but you can't, quote unquote, build on it.
Yeah.
I call myself the king of loopholes. So we brought 4 tons of gravel in and built on top of the gravel. And thanks to the generosity of a very generous Hollywood actor, I don't want to put his name
Okay.
out there, he donated the money to a sight unseen.
Wow.
And we
I love people like that don't. I mean, I love anybody who gives, but then some people give and say, leave my name out of it.
Yeah,
That's a
well,
different type of giving. That's so
Yes.
cool.
And we built the first and only hydroponic greenhouse in all of Manhattan. Forget
Wow.
Harlem, in Manhattan. And we started growing hydroponically. And
That's so cool.
let me tell you, I saw it on a website, reached out, it came on a truck from a company in California. They came up, they built it.
Yeah.
And they handed me this DVD, and that's how you learn how to do it, through a DVD. And Nevaeh in particular, like all the other OG Harlem grown kids, will
Yeah.
tell you with a big smile that I killed more plants than I've grown, which is true. because at full production, there's 10,000 vegetable plants growing at one time.
Wow.
But one wrong formulation, you come in the next day, everything is dead, yellow and dead. It's just, but
Delicate.
it's trial and error.
Yeah.
You just figure it out. And so now we crank that sucker out. It goes year round.
Man.
And you grow like 10,000 plants a month. We harvest it. We distribute it free of charge.
Distribute it to.
The community free of charge.
Really?
Yeah. Started with the kids and the parents coming. But then, little Nevaeh, I tell you how small she was. Her mother is tiny too.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have big glasses, but she has the biggest attitude you ever see in your life. And her mother always wants to know who's this guy around her daughter. So she'd always pop in, right? She had 2 jobs at the time,
Yeah.
but wants to know who this guy is. So she always pops in grilling me about what's going on. Why you telling my baby to bring home, the compost and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So one day we're in the greenhouse, and I have to go downtown. So I'm looking at my watch, and I don't want to be rude. So I finally said, look, lady, I got to run downtown. I need you to watch this for me.
Yeah.
She said, I can't watch that. I said, why not?
I've been watching you.
Yeah. So the worst that could happen, a leak or something. If it leaks, unplug it, right? So she became my first employee.
Really?
She's with me for almost 13 years.
Nevaeh's mother.
Nevaeh's mother. She runs all of our, 14 of our farms.
Good.
And she's self-taught as well. And I gave her my little bit, and she learned trial and error. And that was like the humble beginnings of Harlem Grown. And as the story goes, we started getting a little ideas, the planting. And there's a local New York news station called New York One. And this woman, Cheryl Wills, is their anchor. She heard about this story and came up and interviewed us about this guy in Harlem digging in the dirt. I mean, it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then after it aired, we started getting a lot of interest from downtown, right? But let me go back to my limo days, right? The money's flowing in every year, March, April. My accountant would call me, time for the charitable contributions for your tax deductions. And make the appointment. I go into his office, and here he has a bunch of checks on the sheets, a printout of all these nonprofits, some of them highlighted, and I'm sitting there perusing the names, and if the name hits you, that's it.
Yeah, you just
and
do it.
I'm sitting
and go
there
on.
writing these checks, dude. I felt so good. I walk out of there, my chest all pumped up.
Look what I did.
Look what you just did. But what did I do? What did I do? I threw money at something I didn't even know what it was or what it did. Again, that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for the organization. That always was burning in my head. That's philanthropy. So now, fast forward. Here come these Fortune 100 companies in Manhattan coming up here with checks in hand. And I took a couple, but the work I'm describing to you is very visual. We're in Harlem, New York. Everybody has an image of in their mind when you say Harlem. You're in these urban oases that are overgrown with lush, beautiful greens. You have a little child with the missing tooth smiling, holding a melon with the background. Why does that picture wind up in the annual report of every company in this country to their commitment to community?
Yeah,
their
they're like,
pillar?
look what we did.
Yeah, think
They
about
have,
that.
And they have no, I mean, look, I think it's all positive in general, but look what we did, and they have no clue what they did.
Exactly.
I think that's what you're talking about.
That's
if I understand
exactly what I'm talking about. So that $20,000, $25,000 donation is not a donation. It's a transaction. You're giving it to me for you can leverage this image for your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned clearly and quickly that that's not the way I wanted to go. I don't want anyone to look at this as a charity. We are a 501c3, but I don't ever want one person to feel sorry for these children. They don't need pity. This is not that. If that's what people are looking for, there's plenty of other organizations that would gladly engage with that, but we're not one. So there was a tipping point where a Fortune 100 company wanted to give me this check. And they said they're going to send me a check. And I'm in the early stages, man. I'm waiting for the check.
Yeah.
Over a week, no check. And I called them. I said, where's the check? They said, no, we're not going to mail it. We're going to present it. Okay. Tuesday at 11. 10:30, a photo crew sets up outside the garden. 11 o'clock, 2 limousines, 7 guys in suits jump out with the big foam check, the big corporate banner, The photographer over here, over here, over here. No one wanted to meet the kids, no nothing. It was like that. So I respectfully declined the money. The next day they called me, asked me, did someone insult you? Did something happen? I said, no, but no one once asked me, what do we need here? No one ever asked that.
Yeah.
And they said, so what do you need? I said, how about your employees coming from downtown up here and working with these children on their farm? Because leading up to this, George, you're in there, I am Mr. Tony. It's a burden being Mr. Tony because you know everything that's going on in these kids' lives. Some of it you don't want to know, but they tell you everything. These are children, right? And in response, ask a child about what do you want to be when you grow up. Every kid to the child, athlete, entertainer, in the last 4 or 5 years, add influencer into that as a career goal. Ask a first grader, 6-year-old in a school like that about college. Half of them will ask you, what's that? That's your baseline. So just like I'm in here waving my magic wand, oh, bad school, just move to a better neighborhood. Oh, just eat healthy. If I could do it, anyone can do it. It's not that simple.
Yeah. It's not that simple.
You don't go into a school like that and say, oh, be a doctor, be a lawyer. You might as well say, be a superhero. It's the same disconnect, man.
Yeah, it's possible, but it's not as simple as just saying it and waving a wand. And
right. So now this
sending them
company,
a video or
this company, they took me up on my offer, and they would send their employees every other Saturday, and they'd work on my farm.
wow.
Now, the farm is not what you think. You're thinking about digging and planting. 10 minutes of that.
Yeah.
But then you look up and you see clusters of adults and children laughing, sharing, joking. Today, go to Harlem Grown and ask these kids what they want to be. They want to be CPAs, engineers, architects. They want to write code. Why? They've been simply exposed to this, man.
Plain and
This
simple.
is not, it's not that complicated.
It's casual exposure.
It's casual exposure, right? We have 22 kids, first generation in 4-year universities, do what I'm describing to you right now. And you know who the 22nd is? Little Nevaeh. I met her in kindergarten. We moved her into college in August, studying biology, right? This is the work, man. Everybody focuses on the fruits and vegetables. That's only what I plant. What I'm describing to you, we grow people through this. We hired our 52nd employee last month.
Wow.
We pay fair wages, full health care, medical, dental, optical, 401k with a 4% match, very generous PTO, and $1,000 tuition reimbursement for you to get professional development, whatever your job title is.
Get better at it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to change the community, bro, it ain't giving them food. Don't give them fish. Teach them how to fish. This is what we do. And it's the most impactful thing I've ever done in my life. And I have to put that up there with starting my own family, because this is how you break generational poverty.
Yeah.
Why are you stressing this education shit? I ain't got one. I'm doing great. Remember that. I should have that put on a sign and hang it in my office, because that was the statement that created all of this. Because who am I to say you're not doing great?
Yes.
Right? Who am I?
Who am I?
Right?
You gotta change the conversation.
Now you see it, man. And we have 14 farms.
14 farms.
We give out, oh my God. Here's a nice mathematical equation for all your listeners out here. Everybody pay attention. We grow 6,000 pounds collectively on our 14 sites.
6,000 pounds?
6,000 pounds of organic produce.
Good God.
Already to this date, we've distributed 135,000 pounds of fresh organic fruits and vegetables to the community. How do you do that? Right?
Yeah. Logistics involved.
We know food waste is an epidemic in this country.
Yeah.
40% of the food grown in this country is thrown away. 40%. 15 minutes from Harlem is the Hunts Point Produce Market.
40%?
40% is thrown away. So the Hunts Point Produce Market, which is the largest produce market on the Northeast, is 15, 20 minutes away from Harlem. Same number there. 40% of the food coming in is thrown away. So we work with partner organizations that do food rescue. They go in and take the good, separate the bad from the good, and redistribute it and give it to us, and we add it to our crops, and we give it out. We have 300 people twice a week online for our free farmers market.
It's still free.
It's free. George, we learned early on, how do you charge poor people for anything?
Yeah.
Because I know how people think about it. We have this business capitalistic mindset. They all come to school for free food. That means you're poor. We know the statistics. I hate the stereotypes. I hate all that. So I don't like to regurgitate the negative things, right? But if you have a parent, a lot of them single parents, working 2 jobs, to charge them only $5, that $5 can go to rent, food, or childcare.
Yeah, they're constantly going to be like, either I pay this or I pay
Right.
that, or I don't pay that to pay this.
Right.
And just manage cash flow.
Right. So
Right, month by
we offer high quality programs throughout Harlem Grown. We have a summer camp that we spend $1 million a year for 100 kids.
Wow.
7 weeks, very intensive. One thing to know about Harlem Grown, you're looking at the brand right here. When you say Harlem Grown in that community, this is what they see. So there's a high standard that I have. We offer high quality programs. I have a criteria. Would I consider sending my biological kids to a program like this? If we hesitate, that's not offered. So this is what our kids deserve, and that's what we provide. But again, dude, I never want to put a parent in that position because of money. Because money, it's a construct, man. Cost. Who makes it up? $1 or $1,000? We see that right now with inflation.
Yeah.
How do you just randomly come up with a number? And if we wanted to sell it, we'd be in the wrong community to do that, right?
And like you said, it's what you're doing is growing people.
We're growing people.
If you were growing food, then maybe we talk about it. We're growing people, and the offshoot of that is the food.
The food, right?
And how many? So today now, 14 locations, many thousands of pounds of food distributed. How many youngsters? You said 100 in the summer, and then throughout the year, how many youngsters are working with you?
Thousands, because we partner with elementary schools, just like I described. We're in seven schools right now.
Man.
And that's where it all grows.
All grades?
We focus on elementary.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
we grow with the children. See, if you remember, if I cut them off after 5th grade,
It's their community and everything.
And that's the thing, in underserved communities, we have to understand it doesn't just stop at one point, right? No matter how bad the schools is, when the kids are in there, they're being supported. No matter how bad the housing is, even if it's a shelter, they're being supported. We lose our kids out of school, out of school time.
Yeah.
Budget cuts. All the community centers are closed. There's nowhere for kids to go. In Harlem, New York in particular, for every child in after school programs, how many are waiting for a seat? 15? 14 kids are waiting for an after school seat. Now, the moms are working. 2:30 to 6. What happens to that child who's waiting for a seat? Where do they go? What do they do? That's where we lose our kids. So Harlem Grown becomes that safety net for those children.
Yeah.
We become a safe place for them to come, to get a smile, to get some affirmation, healthy snack. They just feel like it's their place because they planted that corny little seed in the ground. And we don't even try to figure out the psychological component of it. It's their place, right? And that's what we do, and you keep coming. So if I cut that out when they go to 6th grade, they'll still be wandering the streets.
Of course.
So we just keep them close and keep them coming. When schools are closed, Christmas break, we have our camps.
Nice.
We have mini camps, so they always have somewhere to go where they feel seen, heard, fed.
It's incredible. Like I feel like, and it's not the same, but I do. We have a farm or ranch, I guess, in East Texas, and like I feel like everything that's helped me outside of growing up in the gym, I feel like 70% of what's helped me like running a business is just working on the ranch, which is funny. I learned how to like hay and so on and so forth, and grow hay and till the ground and so on and so forth. But in what you're doing, it's like leadership is inherent in it, gut health is inherent in it, self-sufficiency is inherent in it, but it's but at the end of the day, it's about community, people connecting over something positive. And I wanted to go back to one thing, because this is actually why I wanted to bring that up. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she said that she believes, she's a therapist, she's kind of a radical therapist, and she believes that like depression is kind of in her words, and she's going to explain it way better than I just said, but it's like the opposite of connection, right? It's almost like the connection's over here, like strong connection, and then there's a spectrum, and then depression's on the other side. And I just want, for the people, I truly believe like one of the biggest hacks for depression, depending on where there's so many different levels of it, right? But one of the greatest hacks that everybody should at least try to rule out, obviously sleep, obviously eating, and all these other things, movement, but just like connection, building like connections with other people, especially if you're doing it in the process of doing something positive. Like, you know what? I need help right now, but I'm going to put myself aside and go help that person. And inherent in that is a little relief, believe it or not. I always believe that. Could you speak on that? And I'm not trying to project into your story, right? I just wonder how you respond to that, because we talked about the video games. Your wife, like, hey, I don't care what you do, but you got to get out of here. And all of a sudden, you just said, I'm gonna have something to do, but I'm also gonna go make a difference over here, And I know you don't want to take credit for it like that, but the reality is you've made a tremendous difference. Is that what I would call a hack for being in the dumps a little bit, helping other people?
Yeah.
How would you speak to that?
Well, I'd like to flip that.
You have to be careful with it.
Yeah, but I like to flip that because those kids saved me, man.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know how to word it.
Yeah, but it's, listen, human beings, we need connection. Although we don't like to admit it, it was clearly evident during COVID. We need each other, right? But we get bogged down, man. We get bogged down. Entrepreneurship, business is hard. It's very competitive. I retreated because as I was rising, a lot of my peers were stationary or regressing, and that created a friction. And that's why I moved out of the neighborhood into another further away area, right? No one wants to leave their community where you're from, right? It was, I don't know, I think I dealt with that wrong. I'm speaking personally for me. And I went to a therapist for 3 years, and I went for 3 years to find out that I'm a very complicated dude.
Like Shaft,
I could have told you that, man, but it's, it is what it is. But no, we do need each other, man.
That's all.
And
yeah.
I think going into that population, I started at zero, bro. You started at nothing. There's only two ways. There's only one way to go from nothing. You don't go negative nothing. You can only go up, right? And that's how I looked at it. And every day was a different win. It was a different success. It was different this. And dude, man, look at a growing season. And people always say, what do you grow? You grow in New York City from April to October.
Yeah.
Now go to raising a child. What's the season for raising a child? Forever. Every day, right? Take those two together. And that's what Harlem Grown did, right? And there was no master plan. This was selfish, dude. I'm in there killing time, figuring out my next move, not knowing that this is the move.
And Nevaeh, tap, tap, tap.
Oh, man.
Is there a movie in the works? Because this has got to be. And I know how you are, and you probably don't want that. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because this is a story people need to see. That's the only reason. I know, I already, but.
Well, man, you're in the business, so
Nevaeh,
let me tell you. So we started. I'm going backwards a little bit to our fundraising model. So if a company wants to get down with us, it starts with your company coming to work on the farm.
Got it.
Then I realized the United Way model. United Way takes millions of dollars from corporations for them to do service. And then they need a clearinghouse. They become like a clearinghouse. They get the money. Now they're looking for opportunities for those people to actually do the service. Yeah. So they call me and say, you need volunteers to do X, Y, and Z? Yeah, sure. And they would send them. I'm like, let me take United Way out the mix. No offense, United Way. We go direct, right? Yeah. So we host corporations that do days of service on the farm. We charge them thousands of dollars. And we win, they win. We had a bunch of editors from Simon & Schuster come to a day of service, and they saw what I'm describing, and they signed me to a book deal.
Good.
I have a copy for you.
Thank you.
Oh, you have them?
Yeah, George has both.
Okay. So that first book sold 200,000 copies, man.
Really?
The proceeds of that book created a line on our budget that all of our first-gen kids in college If they go to a state school, the average tuition is 1,000 to 12 a
Yeah.
semester. We pay it,
Wow.
but they have to maintain a 3.25.
Good grades.
3.2 grade, and we pay everything.
Wow.
So that story, I don't know, man. They coming at us sideways, man. But that's not why we do the work.
I know that,
But
and
I
I just-
understand it is a vehicle to do much bigger work and go broader because, again, this is not unique to Harlem.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we can create a template where you can copy and paste this in any
Other
community
communities.
in the country. And that's what I want to do. Listen, I'm at the end of this journey, bro. And some of my kids are graduating college. They will be back in the Harlem Groans fold, and we will figure out the next stages. But, yeah, there will be some. I'm sure at one point there will be a movie or a documentary or
The
something.
Bay and her mom, that's just too good. But
Her mom's a big fan of boxing fan too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Is she?
Oh yeah, she loves Devontae Wild.
Javante Davis and
Very
Deontay Wilder.
talented dudes, yeah.
Well, look, man, thank you so much for sharing your story. Big inspiration to me, and I'm so glad we got to share this story with our community. And I'll be out there soon to get my hands dirty. I know
Okay.
I got to start.
Come on, man.
And thank you.
And everybody, look us up, man. HarlemGrown.org. It's the first thing you type in, and we'll pop up.
Man, much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, man. All right, brother.